Good evening, Mayor, Commissioner, staff, and members of the audience. My name is Lou Forges, and for the purpose of this record tonight, my address is 112 South Buford Avenue, Ocoee 34761. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the results of our Charter Review Commission. And following my 2-hour presentation, Mr. Rick Geller, our facilitator and special counsel of the city, will present our recommendation to amend our current City of Ocoee Charter. Here we go. And in my presentation, I'll take you back to a little bit of fun fact. Just kind of show us where, how we got here and where we're going. According to, here we go. Section C59 of the Charter. The Charter Review Commission convenes every 10 years. May also be appointed by the City Commission at such time as deemed necessary by the City Commission. On April 18th of this year, this commission determined that a Charter Review Commission should be appointed to propose amendments to the Charter, including an enlarged residency requirement of the mayoral and City Commission candidates. On May 16th, collectively, you guys appointed 5 Charter Review Commission members and 2 alternates. And most of us, I believe, are here this evening. Myself, Lou Forges, I serve as chair of the commission. We have Mr. Jim Seals as our vice chair. Member Derek Chacon. Member Adam Lovejoy, who couldn't be here this evening with us. Member Thomas Laurie, he's over here. And first alternate member, Finney McTavish, she's over here. And also second alternate member, Kelton Butler, a very young man. Thank you for being part of this. And of course, our recording secretary and our city clerk was our very own Melanie Sabit, and our facilitator and special counsel to the city, Mr. Rick Geller, whom many of you are familiar with his work already. We went to work for you guys. We held 5 meetings almost consecutively. We met on June 8th, June 15th, June 29th, July 13th, and July 20th. Members of the public were invited, and they provided commentary, feedback, recommendation at each meeting. Subsequent to our Chapter 61 of the City of Ocoee Charter, if changes are recommended, the Charter Review Commission shall transmit its proposed report with the charter amendments in ordinance form to the City Commission for comments. During our last meeting on July 20th, the Charter Review Commission voted to approve and submit 11 recommended amendments in the proposed report in ordinance form to the City of Commission, which later on our attorney, Rick Geller, will go over with you guys. Also pursuant to Chapter 61 of the City of Ocoee Charter, the City Commission has 45 days to review these recommendations. In that same 45 days, you have to share with us any comments you may have or any kind of recommendation for us to move forward. And just so you guys know, this presentation tonight starts your 45 days. Make it worth it. Also, pursuant to Chapter 61 of the City of Ocoee Charter, the Charter Review Commission shall consider the comments in your recommendation by the Commission, and then we will make our own final report to the City Commission in ordinance form, which shall be adopted verbatim by the City Commission, and which also will be placed on the ballot at the next municipal election. According to Florida Statutes 166.031, upon adoption of an amendment to the charter of a municipality by a majority of the electors voting in a referendum, the governing body shall have the amendment incorporated into the charter and shall file the revised charter with the Department of State. All such amendments are effective on the date specified therein or as otherwise provided in the charter. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn the podium over to Attorney Rick Geller, who will go over our proposed report of the Ocoee Charter Review.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. When I conclude my remarks, if it's okay with the mayor, I'd like to at least give an opportunity for other members of the Charter Review Commission. If they think we missed anything or would like to give some further explanation, I want to give them an opportunity to come up and also share with you. So let me just say that.
Is it okay if that's at 10 o'clock when we're all gone? Just kidding.
We'll try to. I'll try to make this succinct as I can. This is really an awesome responsibility that the city gives to the citizens, in that the final report is what the citizens who are on this Charter Review Commission decide what it ought to be. So in terms of trying to facilitate their proceedings, I conducted interviews of the city manager, the assistant city manager, the city clerk. In due time, we got feedback also from the finance director. And the Charter Review Commission members were invited to give their own feedback, and if there was anything they heard out in the community, they could also submit proposals. And I took the different suggestions, regardless of how I personally may have felt about things. It wasn't my determination, it's their determination what to do. And I put everything out in a big matrix like this. And this is actually a 22-page document, and I took each section that there was concern over or they wanted to address, and then it was suggested by the city manager that I provide comparisons with our, what I'll call our peer cities, so our neighbors in the town of Windermere, city of Apopka, and the city of Winter Garden. And I also threw in an extra column here to City of Winter Park, simply because I do a lot of work for Winter Park and I am familiar with that city. And so you have in your agenda packet the proposed reports, not the final report yet. It's still the proposed report in ordinance form. And just some commentary on how it is set forth. The charter tells us how the ordinance is supposed to be. That we need to have a clear, concise statement describing the substance of the measure without argument or prejudice. And that's below the ballot title. First we have a caption and the ballot title. And then below that, the question, shall the above described amendment be adopted, yes or no? And that's what we did. So another suggestion from the city manager was to give my own analysis based on my experience with other city charters, what we might want to consider. And one item jumped out at me at the very beginning, in that most cities in their charters say that the municipal powers are liberally construed. And if you look at our neighboring municipalities here, Windermere, the powers of the town shall be construed liberally in favor of the municipality, limited only by the Constitution, the laws of Florida, and specific limitations contained herein. Apopka, very similar language, powers of the city shall be construed liberally. And again, Winter Garden, powers of the city of Winter Garden shall be construed liberally in favor of the municipality. Looking at, well, first off, let me explain what liberal construction means. It is a legal term of art. It is used by judges and justices across the ideological spectrum. All right. So this is an example of from the Florida Supreme Court, 2019, and this is Justice Polston liberally construing a statute to effect the purposes set forth herein. And I would tell you that 4 out of 5 of these justices are very conservative leaning, yet they're liberally construing to effect the purposes. And so the suggestion here, and this is the first ballot question, and this shows you the strikeouts and underlines here. As the charter is currently written, only the enumerated powers of the city are to be liberally construed. The suggestion here is that you construe all the powers of the city to effect their intended purposes. And that's what this language is attempting to do. And so here's question 1. And I won't read the caption, but I'll go straight to the title, the question here. Section C8 of the City of Ocoee's Charter shall be amended to provide that the City of Ocoee's powers be liberally construed in favor of the city to effect their intended purposes. Shall the above described amendment be adopted? That would be question 1. Question 2. In looking at the enumerated powers of the municipality, our chair, Mr. Forges, realized that as it pertains to a paragraph about the city acquiring and disposing of property, why not allow the exchange of property, or at least enumerate the possibility of exchanging property? And so here, question 2 would appear on the ballot as Section C8 of the City of Ocoee's Charter shall be amended to provide that the city's enumerated powers shall include the right to acquire or dispose of property, including real property, by exchange. Shall the above described amendment be adopted? And this is something that municipalities do from time to time. You may need to exchange some property for additional right-of-way, that sort of thing. And then this here just shows where we are proposing to insert the word exchange into the first part of Section C8, paragraph B deals with the acquisition of property, and the second part deals with the disposal of property. Let's be able to do either by exchange. The next item deals with residency requirements for candidates for mayor and for city commissioner. And first we looked at our peer cities. Windermere has a requirement that any person shall be eligible to hold the office of town council member, will have been a permanent resident of the town for 12 consecutive months immediately prior to the resident's election or appointment. City of Apopka. Each member of the city council, which includes the mayor, shall be a resident of the city of Apopka, Florida, for a period of 1 year next preceding his or her election to office. City of Winter Garden similarly has a 1-year requirement immediately prior to the end of the qualifying period. Currently, there is no 1-year requirement in the City of Ocoee Charter. And so question 3 would read on the ballot, Section C11 of the City of Ocoee's Charter shall be amended to provide that candidates for mayor shall reside in the City of Ocoee for at least 1 year before qualifying as a candidate, and to require candidates for city commissioner to reside in the district they seek to represent for at least 1 year before qualifying as a candidate. Shall the above described amendment be adopted, yes or no? And here is how the charter language itself would be amended with strikeouts and underlines to provide for that 1-year residency requirement. And there is a sentence that was added at the very end. A candidate for mayor or commissioner shall furnish such proof of meeting the 1-year residency requirement as may be prescribed by ordinance. So I need to digress and tell you about a proposed ordinance that was also approved by the Charter Review Commission for your consideration. This is purely a discretionary matter on your part if you would want to adopt this, but you will see how this proposed ordinance goes hand in hand with this and some other proposed charter amendments. And so the proposal for this ordinance would be to set forth the type of proof that must be provided to the city clerk to establish the 1-year residency. A candidate for mayor shall furnish to the city clerk proof of at least 1-year residency in the city, and a candidate for commissioner shall furnish to the city clerk proof of at least 1 year of residency in the district in which the candidate is running. Such proof of residency shall be sworn to under penalty of perjury and consist of a voter registration card and government-issued photo identification card, and at least one of the following: a deed, lease, utility bills, or other clear and convincing documentary proof. And the sense of the Charter Review Commission is that this is important to preserve and protect the integrity of elections in the city of Ocoee. There was concern on the Charter Review Commission about the idea of an appointee serving on the commission for up to an entire year. Now that was approved by the voters in 2017. And to his credit, Commissioner Hart will be the first one to tell you that's a really long time for someone to be sitting in an appointed seat. And in examining different ways in which that might be shortened without undoing what was already approved by the voters just several years ago, the idea came about to move the qualifying period, instead of in January, move it to December for most elections. And the existing language in the charter, or actually in the election code, says you have to calculate 46 calendar days plus 5 business days before the election, and we wanted to make it simple. And so the simplest way to do this is to start the qualifying period Friday noon, the first Friday in December before the election, and then the qualifying period would end 1 week later at noon on the second Friday in December. And so that would, if there is a resignation to run for another office, that would provide time for this commission to establish by resolution another qualifying period to fill a vacancy caused by a resignation. That could not have occurred this last go-around because of the time frame in which ballots have to be mailed overseas, especially for our military personnel serving. And so this would allow the seat that the resigning member is leaving to be filled at the same election that resigning member is running for the next office. So let's go back to the charter. Let's go back here. This is question number 4, and it says Section C-17 of the City of Ocoee's Charter shall be amended to provide that the successor to the office of mayor or city commissioner shall be elected at the next regular or general city election if held within 12 months of the vacancy. Shall the above described amendment be adopted, yes or no? And so this is actually cleaning up some language in the charter, and it specifies here. I think this is generally understood, but we're making it very precise here in C-17 that when there is an appointee to fill a resigning commissioner's seat, that is to serve as an interim commissioner. You see where we inserted that. And then also, there may be times where the next election is not just a general city election, but might actually may be a regular city election, which is defined elsewhere in the charter as occurring at regular intervals. And so we wanted to add regular as well as general city elections as having that outermost 12-month period to hold that election. And then again, some more language of precision here, that if for some reason the entire commission is removed by the governor, that there shall be an interim city commission, and that interim city commission shall call a special election to elect their successors within 90 days. Very rare, and that's never going to happen. But let's go on to question number 5. Section C-18 of the City of Ocoee's Charter shall be amended to authorize the City Commission to designate an accountant or accounting firm in accordance with the procedures set forth in Florida Statutes 218.391 for a period not to exceed 5 years shall the above described amendment be adopted. This deals with the annual audit of the city. Currently, that auditor may be selected by you annually or up to a period of 3 years. And the sense from the budget director and from the Charter Review Commission was that could be extended out a little bit. And so here is the this here first try to explain what this statute is that we're citing to 218.391. This authorizes the City Commission to establish an auditor selection committee, and the auditor selection committee chairperson shall be a member of the governing body, so one of you, and that the auditor selection committee establishes the factors for evaluating proposed auditing services by accountants or accounting firms. They evaluate the proposals, they rank and recommend the proposed auditors no fewer than 3 firms who are deemed highly qualified. And then it's the governing body that selects one of the firms recommended by the Auditor Selection Committee. And it says here that the renewals may be done without the use of the auditor selection procedure. So it's incumbent then upon the city to not have an evergreen contract that goes on forever and ever, but to have some kind of outer limit for when the selection of auditor will happen again. And so the idea was, let's extend it out from 3 years to 5 years, because this Auditor Selection Committee makes it highly unlikely that you're going to have any kind of collusion or fraud. And so here is the text of the amendment that we're proposed to add to the charter, that the commission shall provide for an independent annual audit of all city accounts in conformance with the auditor selection procedures of 218.391, which I just explained, and that the city commission may designate such accountant or accounting firm for a period not exceeding 5 years, which is increased from 3 years. Moving on to question number 6. Section C21 of the City of Ocoee's Charter shall be amended to authorize the City Commission to reasonably extend the requirement for the city manager to reside in the city within 1 year of beginning employment upon the Commission's unanimous approval. Shall the above described amendment be adopted, yes or no? And this came about at the suggestion of the city manager, who's looking to the future, and with the realization that the city might want to protect itself by allowing a little bit of flexibility. There is a strong sense on the Charter Review Commission that the city manager should reside in the city of Ocoee. But for that 1 year period to begin, instead of being so hard and fast, give the city commission a little bit of flexibility, and it must be a very good reason to extend it, because the requirement to extend it requires unanimous approval. And so there may be something where the child is going to graduate from high school, but we need a few more months in whatever school district, that sort of thing. Let's move on to question number 7. And question number 7 is intending to codify in the charter the existing practice. So let me go ahead and read this. Section C28 of the City of Ocoee's Charter shall be amended to clarify that the city manager shall determine the city clerk's salary subject to budget approval by the city commission. Shall the above described amendment be adopted, yes or no? As I'm told, there is no separate vote on the city clerk's salary, that it is customarily voted on as part of the budget. And that's what this is intending to recognize. And so if you look at the text of the amendment, that it's just saying that the salary is subject to the budget approval by the city commission. Should I move on? Do you have a question on that? Yes, yes, sir.
No, I was going to wait till after you threw.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh,
I'll ask it.
that's fine, thank you.
Back up to it.
All right. And so question number 8 on the ballot is to make the charter crystal clear as to the 3 types of elections that are set forth in the charter. And we dealt with this when we were dealing with some of the analysis of the District 4 election just a few months ago. And so the question here is Section C45 of the City of Ocoee's Charter shall be amended to define regular elections as those held at regular intervals for election of mayor and city commissioner, special elections as those held to fill a vacancy in the office of mayor or city commissioner, for a citizen initiative to approve of an ordinance or a referendum to repeal an ordinance, and general elections as any other municipal election. Shall the above described amendment be adopted? And here you'll see the proposed additions to the charter. And this is recognizing and referring to what's already in the charter, especially with respect to regular elections. It goes on and it specifies the times when regular elections occur. And then in C17 and C19, which is referred to here, sets forth when special elections occur. And then any other election could just be a general city election, such as the election to decide these proposed charter amendments. Question 9. Section C45 of the City of Ocoee's Charter shall be amended to provide that any person elected to the office of mayor or city commissioner shall be sworn into office immediately prior to the commencement of the next regularly scheduled city commission meeting held after the canvassing board declares the election results. Shall the above described amendment be adopted, yes or no? And if you look at the next slide here, this explains the reason here, that the way it is currently written in the charter, the swearing in occurs at 7 p.m. But of course, this city commission begins its meetings at 6:15, so it does not make sense to wait for the swearing in for 45 minutes into the meeting. So that's to fix an anachronism that is in the charter. Question 10. Section C49 of the City of Ocoee's charter shall be amended to authorize the city commission to set the dates of elections and dates of qualifying periods for candidates by either resolution or ordinance. Shall the above described amendment be adopted, yes or no? And so this is something that the city commission, it's not so clear right now. And so you may recall with respect to the District 4 election, I recommended that an ordinance be adopted after the resolution setting forth when the District 4 election would happen, because for one thing, if you look at this language that's currently in the charter, the city commission shall by ordinance provide for the conduct of elections. And that's very broad language. And so it's not very clear from that you could actually set an election or a qualifying period by resolution. But the proposal here is to give the commission flexibility to do either. There may be exigent or urgent circumstances where you would want to set dates by resolution, and you could have the flexibility to do so. Question 11, this is the last one. Thank you for indulging me in all this. This is to place the city clerk on the election canvassing board. First, we looked at what the neighboring cities are doing. Windermere, a canvassing board shall consist of the town clerk and 2 incumbent town council members not running for re-election. Apopka, the city canvassing board shall be composed of the city clerk and 2 members of the city council. Winter Garden, the canvassing board shall be composed of the city clerk and 2 citizens. So the question on the ballot would be as follows. Section C50 of the City of Ocoee's charter shall be amended to appoint the city clerk to the City of Ocoee's election canvassing board in addition to 2 citizens and 2 citizen alternates appointed by the city commission. Shall the above described amendment be adopted, yes or no? And this here is to show you the change that would occur in the charter with the strikeouts and the added language here. So currently, the city clerk does not serve on the canvassing board, and there are pragmatic and practical reasons why she should be on the canvassing board, because she is the coordinator of elections for the City of Ocoee, and it's important that she be there when the canvassing takes place. And on the various instances where I have sat with canvassing boards for other municipalities, the city clerk was always there and always participated, and that was very valuable. But the Charter Review Commission was sensitive about eliminating one of the citizen seats. And so the proposal here is that the City Commission shall also appoint 2 additional citizens to serve as alternates to the canvassing board. We had 2 alternates on the Charter Review Commission who you were introduced to earlier, and it helped enormously to have additional citizens there to assist. And so, Mayor, I don't know if you want to go to your question now or
I'll ask Commissioner first.
All right.
Commission have any comments on any of the changes to the charter? Okay.
Thank you very much. You talked about cleaning up in question 8, the definitions of regular, special, or general election.
Correct.
But I noticed that when you were talking about the charter review amendment process, that the language still said general or municipal election.
Okay.
Did you look at clearing that up?
No, I think they are one and the same, whether it's a general city election or general municipal election. Is that what your question is getting at, Because maybe I need to look at what you're looking at.
The language that you had for when the charter amendments can be on, at the very beginning, before you started.
Okay?
And it said that those amendments can appear either on a general or during a general or municipal, like, which later you said they were the same thing. A general was any other municipal election other than a regular or a special election.
Okay, let me make sure
Go
I'm
one
looking at
more.
the same thing. 61,
Well, okay, there you go. You're right.
52.
I don't see it there. Try one more.
Yeah, I'm not certain.
I wrote it down
Yes.
before you got to question 8 because I was confused by that. And we talked about that before. A general election is any other municipal election other than a special election or a regular election.
It would be.
Okay.
It would be. I think that would be the logical conclusion.
This matrix, I like this. You said you have a 22-page doc. You made that for all 11 questions?
More than 11 questions. This was a document. It was a working document. It went through probably 4 iterations. After each meeting of the Charter Review Commission, it would be revised.
Yeah.
And we can give you copies of.
Please, that
of
wasn't in the
all-
packet, and I'd like to read that.
Sure. Would you like the last one, or would you like to see the entire sequence as we?
The
went?
last one, the current one is
Okay.
fine. I had one other question, obviously, I know you've anticipated this, the background check question, as far as qualifying candidates.
Yeah, there was a fair amount of discussion about that, and the difficulty is, it does not matter when you have or how long your qualifying period is. There will always be a last day of qualifying. A background check will take at least several days, if not longer, according to the city clerk. And so it would not be possible to have an answer by the close of qualifying whether the person who is running for office is a convicted felon and has not had their rights restored by the governor, and so would be ineligible. It just could not be determined on the fly like that. Oh, that's right. And then Chairman Forge has just reminded me that you'll recall the suggestion is that you must present your voter registration card. In order to be a registered voter, you cannot be a convicted felon without your civil liberties restored by the governor.
So that's the problem that I see. Is that requirement, is that registration card required to be a year old?
Well, the
I'll
registration card is required in order to prove 1-year residency in either the city for the mayor or in the district that the candidate is running in. And so that is one of the items of proof that would be required. Now, what often happens, as I understand from the city clerk, is a candidate will run and get that registration card, right before they're going to file their papers.
Correct.
And so the registration card may not be a year old. It may only be several days or a day old.
So then the Orange County Supervisor of Elections cannot confirm that that person is eligible to vote. They issue the card on the
They issue the-
assumption that within 90 days, the state won't kick it out.
That is correct, and it would.
So can that be required to be at least a year old as part of the bona fide residency requirement? Because that would give the county time to vet that voter registration card.
Well, I don't know that happens. That the county is not conducting background checks on every
No, but they
person
give
who is.
the state the opportunity to notify them that a person's rights have not been restored, and that process, if the state does that, takes up to 90 days.
Yeah.
That was what I ran into with the incident that you're describing.
Right. I appreciate that, but the state is not customarily doing that. The state is not looking at every person who is registering across the state and cross-referencing anyone who has ever been convicted of a felony, and then cross-referencing that with whether the rights have been restored. It's just not something that is going to happen unless it is brought to the attention of authorities. And so I probably don't have a really good answer for you on this, but this was something that the Charter Review Commission did grapple with, and there was a considerable discussion about this. How do we prevent someone who is a convicted felon from running for office? And there was some discussion about, well, the press will certainly be looking at the qualifications of candidates and their backgrounds, and so that's one source of protection, so to speak. And then opponents also will perform background checks on those who they're running against frequently.
Okay.
So I hope that helps you a little bit.
I don't agree with that. I think the reason that we knew was because he openly bragged about it. So I think at least for the public record, I take your point about the deadline and the timing, but if it was at least a requirement to sign authorizing a background check, and then that was part of the public record, that would inform the voters.
Okay. So it is your prerogative within the next 45 days, when you come back and make recommendations to the Charter Review Commission, that if you could articulate that to the board and to the Charter Review Commission, then that could be taken into consideration.
Okay.
So,
Thank you very much.
sure.
That's it.
If I may add to that, Commissioner Kennedy, we spent a lot of time on that subject matter. And, we concluded that if we take into consideration every subjective measure from the public to put on our ballot with regards to how do you qualify to be a candidate for our city, we wouldn't have anyone running for office at all. So we had to be objective. So some of the stuff that we implemented, again, we did look into the background check. So we all concluded that we will rely on the voter registration and kind of go forward with that. Because if we kept adding all kinds of barriers that everyone seems to think of that we should put in to someone who's running for office, we'd never have politicians running for this office. And it was kind of a gridlocking situation we'll be creating for ourselves if we didn't accept some measures from the county and the state to kind of keep things moving with regards to how they qualify, with regards to the background questions that you were asking.
And this is not going to satisfy you completely, but let me add that candidates must swear under penalty of perjury that they are eligible to be running for office. And so if they are in fact not eligible, then
they'd be disqualified. Can I ask a follow-up? Is the requirement that citizens serving on city boards be subject to a background check? Is that in the charter, or is that a city policy? Where does that requirement come from?
do you recall that?
I don't recall
don't-
that.
I don't
Because
recall
that's
that
the
being in the charter.
disparity
This may be
that
an
I see,
ordinance.
is you
It might be an
can't,
ordinance,
we have
it's
a
not,
rule
yeah.
that people serving on city boards have to take a background check.
There's
We
only-
don't
But that
have
may be an
one for
ordinance, but that
commissioners.
was
That's
not,
only one board in it, Steve.
yeah.
The diversity board and the board put that in their resolution.
That's in a
Okay.
resolution
board-
of that
Okay.
board's
At the
bylaws
time,
or something?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think it's going to take some time for me to digest all that you have done, okay? So again, I thank the board for all they did, because this was a very trying time in this last election for many, not me, but for many. And it may come to haunt me in the future if I elect to run again. Did the Charter Review Committee discuss anything regarding the language to make this position part-time? We know that that has come up so many times, that some folks want to make this a full-time position, again, being a burden on the taxpayers, that it would be a full-time position. But is there anything that was discussed during your charter review regarding stating that this is a part-time position?
Commissioner, that did not come up.
I don't believe it's in the charter at all. I mean, I've read the charter so many times over the years, and you just, after a while, can't pinpoint exactly where it might be. But if
Yeah,
that goes back to the again, to the Charter Review Committee. I find that to be an important factor, because this is a part-time position. We are not full-time employees, or, I don't think we're really classified as an employee.
No, your officers.
So that's about the extent of it. Okay, that's just one question. I'm probably going to get many comments about the next thing I'm going to say, but I'll say it. I know at one point the charter said that the city manager must live in the city. I think that's the last time, I think we had our prerogative on previous years, because we allowed Rob, where he did not have to live in the city. But I think we found during COVID, and we found during this last couple of years, that with technology, the city manager has been very accessible to us no matter where they live, just as we have been very accessible no matter where we are at the point when something happens. And I wondered if that was what the discussion was with the Charter Review Board at that point, because I believe what now, it says 1 year
It is 1 year to establish residency
to establish.
within the city.
Was there any discussion that they would remove that? Was there
No.
at all?
No, the commission members, and I'll let the chairman jump
Okay.
in here, felt very strongly that the city manager should live in the city.
That is correct. We inserted that 1 year. We didn't have that before. And simply collectively, we just felt that as a leader of our city, they should reside here.
Okay, I
Much like-
understand that. I
much-
just,
Much like the commissioners and the mayors and everything else, because the city manager is a leader of our city. So it was recommended collectively to have that city manager reside in the city. So we added the one, within the 1 year.
Well, the 1 year's already there.
The 1 year discretion that we have.
The
Up to 1
discretionary.
year.
Up to 1 year, correct. So now we're giving you some leeways if the city manager has some circumstances where they couldn't come in within 1 year, you can collectively decide on it and give them maybe another 3 months or whatever the reason may be. But we insist, well, the charter insists that we do keep the 1 year, that they have to reside with the city.
Well, I appreciate that you put the 1 year in, because that does give someone a little, I say, leeway.
1 year, and collectively, you can collectively extend that depending on the circumstances that
Sure.
the manager may have.
Just for clarification, the 1 year requirement is already in the charter. It is there today, that you must establish residency within 1 year. The
That's right.
proposed,
Okay.
the proposal
I'm-
here is to give you just a little bit of flexibility on 1 year.
Okay.
That's right, correct. From the
Okay,
previous review, the 1 year was added, that's correct.
And I'm a little confused on, okay, thank you. No, I think again, I read it, and sometimes you forget certain things, and we've changed things over the years. Explain the city clerk's salary. I wasn't aware that we had involvement in that. I thought that was set by city guidelines.
The charter says that the clerk's salary is, there is approval by this board. Now, in practice, it has been approval through the budget. And so the idea here was just to make it crystal clear that the approval, that there's not some separate vote on Melanie's salary. It's,
Pull that back up.
Well, I wanted to increase it,
Yeah,
but
pull that, could you pull that one back up, because I'm a little again,
Pull that
I'm,
back up on the, oh, he's got it?
he's got the city
yeah, it's
salary,
there.
okay.
because that one, I guess you're right, we've always done it through the budget
I think so, it was 11.
process.
Don't we approve the,
It gets, we approve it in the budget, but I was not, I guess,
I know,
No, it's 10.
again, I can't be a walking charter
Here, 10,
officiant about this, but
it was 9.
I think the city set, was it on 7 or 8, 7?
So I'm trying to find.
city clerk.
There it is.
Yeah.
Question 7.
City's-
Yeah, the mayor's
We're on 7.
Well, everyone should be appointed by the city manager, because we're a manager form of government, so we don't hire or fire. So,
We set the salaries though.
but this seems, when there shall be a city clerk who shall be appointed by the city manager, well, everyone basically is appointed by the city manager, correct? It's city manager form of government. He hires, fires.
Yes.
Commissioner, I think the language that was added, so the last sentence seems to indicate from the charter that the city manager sets the salary, and then it's approved by the city commission, kind of like like you would approve by separate vote her salary. When in practice, that's not what's happened. In practice, what's happened is the city manager sets her salary, puts it in the budget, and you approve the budget. And so they're just clarifying that this, now it reads as if it's just the way it's been happening
Okay.
in past.
All right, it's just a little confusing, because 14 years, we've always just approved it within the budget. Everyone's, and I hate to pick on Melanie, but it's just everyone's salary and the budget has been our form to approve everyone's salary.
Yeah, this is just to make it
Clear.
fit with what we do with everybody else. Hers was called out individually, and I guess what the board is saying, hers doesn't need to be
Called out individually.
contemplated individually, but like we've been doing it.
Like, thank you. Okay, that's all for right now. I know I have
Okay.
45 days, so I'll
Mr.
probably
First,
come up with more.
No, I don't have any questions.
you're right, we got 45 days. We don't want to take that long, but
Yeah.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes, sir, I'm going to take my time and digest this, but once again, thanks to the commission. I had an opportunity to sit in and listen to their meeting, and it was so efficiently and well-run. We have some very talented people in the city of Ocoee, and I admire your dedication to democracy. So I thank you for your service, especially Mr. Seals. I thank you for stepping up, sir, for representing the city. I do agree with the one-year term. It's a situation, I call it a growing pain, but it's part of what we need to do. A lot is coming to Ocoee, and me, speaking as a citizen, I'm concerned that outside forces will pump a lot of money into an election and change this. That's just me speaking as a citizen, and I don't want that to happen. I definitely want somebody who lives in Ocoee to have a voice in Ocoee, and I don't want outside sources affecting our thing. And once again, I'm in church, sorry. As Commissioner Wilson said, I've been doing this for a few months. This is a part-time job. It should not be a full-time job. When people start doing things for money, things change. So I am of the opinion, and want to go on record, this should stay a part-time job. And to me, I consider this community service. I don't consider this a salary. I'm not looking for money. I'm just trying to serve this city of Ocoee. So once again, thank you for your work. There's a lot to digest, and I appreciate your efforts. And once again, to our citizens, thank you very much.
How about each one of you standing up that was on that board? I know you raised your hand. Each one that was on the charter board, stand up. I personally want to thank you. I will say that we have a new person that hasn't been involved in politics. We have a couple that have. And I don't know about Mr. Combs, but I know that young man standing right there. I've known him since he was born, I guess. And I've been trying to get him involved in politics, so looks like you got involved. So we appreciate all of you coming and doing that process and going through that. Thank you very much. I think everybody needs to know who you were. Appreciate it. Thank you. All righty. The one question, answered that one, I was gonna ask about that too, but the other one is the city manager thing. We did it, when Rob came here about 19 and a half years ago, maybe 20, which is an unusual thing for a city manager. Let me tell you, most of them don't last more than 2 to 4 years. So, I will say a little, I'm for the city manager living in the city, but I voted to let him do what he's doing. He had a house there already set up, he was that close. But when you're out looking for the person that you wanna run your city, you wanna find one that's gonna come here, not be afraid to go to Publix, or not be afraid to go to Lowe's.
Ran out of-
Just be around, my older brother got in politics when he come out of college. He was a city clerk and a city finance director, assistant city manager, and city manager. Every city in 40 years he lived in, when he got the job, he moved there. Every year. Whenever he was, no matter if he stayed in a place a year, he packed up, moved his family, and lived in those towns. And he was involved in his town. You know, it's a different thing to know that person knows what you're knowing every day and seeing every day. Without me having to call him and tell him. When Rob's good about it, I mean, he answers. But that's a different situation now than what we're doing. We probably got somebody we wanna do, and if it is, I don't see a year. I'd say 6 months. You give them a year, next thing you know, it's gonna be a year and a half. They're already here, they need to get in here and get working. So I'm personally, I approve that city manager thing, and I'll be voting for that. Anybody I can tell, I'll tell them the same thing. We did it, we had the choice with Rob, and Rob knows, I think that same night we hired you, we come come up with that?
No, actually, and Mayor, when I originally took the job back in 2004, the rule was you had to, I believe it was unless the majority of the city commission waives that. And I think about a month before I came here, I just bought that house. And you all gave me a 2-year dispensation so I wouldn't have to pay taxes when I sold the house. And then after 2 years, I think the thought process at the time was, well, we can get a hold of you. And it didn't seem to be that much of an issue then. And yeah, I understand some things have changed since then. I didn't advise anybody, I didn't ask anybody to talk on this particular issue. You'll probably be discussing this next year because that's probably when I'm going to be retiring. So you will have a chance to have more discussions about that.
But in the process, like I said, Rob's been here for 20 years, which you ever check resumes of city managers, most of them don't say not that they get killed or anything like that. They don't live in the city very long, they don't last. Don't think that funny because somebody had that happen to them. But I just think it's part of the city. We're not the same city we were 20 years ago. Yeah, we're not the same city we were 20 years ago. We're a different place in different times. And I think it's part of, we're here, and I think he runs the city. I look at it being a person that should be here. So that's my own thoughts on that. And I was gonna ask you about something else. The deal about swearing, that you swear in and that you don't do this, it doesn't do any good, because nothing happens. We had 2 things this past election that filled out forms legally that we couldn't do anything about. So why does it matter if you're gonna ask them or have them fill it out? If we're not doing it, why do that? I mean, to me, I know we have to do certain things with employees we hire in the recreation department, if they have to sign that, they don't have any problems or anything like that. But we should do the same thing, and there's gotta be some way that we can fasten that up and get it where it's there. Because 2 of them signed up to be something they weren't, and there was nothing you could do about it. Nobody could do anything. And that's ridiculous in this day and time. To me, it is. So I asked, and they said, oh, we don't check them, those things, because it takes too long. Well, start the day they sign it and say it. And let's see if we can expedite it, something to, but it is something that needs to be made sure of, because that was a mess. And that's pretty much it. I don't know, we're gonna have, do you want us to come back at the next meeting with the answer to this? And how long?
Well, you technically have 45 days.
Well, I know,
for
we
you
don't wanna wait that long.
to give your feedback back to the
And
Charter
I'll
Review Commission.
say
And so-
something else. Lou, I really appreciate your time and activity in this. You've done a great job. I know Jim did it before, and he's a good man at doing stuff, but you've done a good job, and you represented it well, and so did Mr. Geller. We appreciate that real well. Thank you.
Thank you. We had a great team here.
The 45 days that we have.
You
okay,
have.
I know that we wanted to go on the presidential primary, correct, next March?
Correct.
Okay, what's the time, it has to be done by December, is that, what's our drop dead dates that we have?
The supervisor of elections wants items that would be on the ballot by early December, December 12th.
Okay,
But we have to do a first and second reading of the ordinance, and we only have 1 meeting in November. So we definitely need to, present, something to the commission October, if we can.
but we only have 1 meeting in September, correct?
Correct.
So these 45 days, probably aren't 45 days.
So if we're in all agreement.
Regarding, go back over the city manager one, and I'm not opposed to the year, I'm just saying, all what you're doing is giving us flexibility if there's extra months needed.
To extend it, correct, if
That was-
necessary.
To extend it if
Under
necessary.
special
Does it say
circumstances.
how
Extend what?
long? I mean, because, when we get,
Your
things are
discretion.
very vague. We're trying to tighten up to where they're not vague.
What are you asking about?
I'm going back to the city manager with extra months, but when you're vague,
Well,
it leaves
if
a
you,
lot of room for
Now,
flexibility.
in the contract, when you sign a contract with them, you're gonna put a date of hire. It'll be probably 3 months, most times it's 3 months or something, before you bring them in. We know what the date's gonna be here for sure, so we pretty well know when he's gonna go.
correct.
So we'll pretty much be set up to do what we gotta do without having that. I don't
Well,
believe,
I don't want us to be vague. That's the problem, because in the charter, we've been vague. That's what brought us into this situation. to me, because there has been a lot of room on the side. And what we're trying to do with the charter,
Well, in this instance, what it is, again, the city manager has 1 year to
Okay.
move into the city. If something happens in their way of life, they couldn't make it here within 1 year, how long is the time does not have to be on the charter, because that's something you will decide collectively. How much more time do we give them to move here? That does not have to be, the time period does not have to be here in the charter.
no.
So
I-
We don't do that with any other employees.
you decide that.
Well, no other employee
So
is
any,
listed in the charter.
1 day, one day plus 1 year is up to you. You set that next time based on what you agree to. But the charter says 1 year. So
Okay.
that's the date the charter
I'm
gives you.
just trying not to be vague,
Okay.
so that's,
And so,
We're going to make sure that we summarize everything for you. I'll tell you at what date you need to get any comments back to us, and what's going to happen at that point, the next meeting of the Charter Review Commission for any comments that you have, and when we anticipate putting the first reading on, in which meeting.
okay, so we're on
So
a tight
we'll
timeframe.
summarize all that for you.
Thank you, because I believe we're going to be on a tight timeframe.
And I'll add that we actually had to expedite one of our meetings forward in order to meet you here tonight. So
Appreciate
there'll be a lot of legworks in this 45.
Appreciate all you're doing, it's,
I know they
I
all
have a
will
great team.
very much appreciate all the feedback that you're giving tonight. It'd be
You
very
got the right
helpful.
crew, Lou.
These are my cronies.
All right, so you're gonna come back with us before the next meeting with something we can,
Yeah, we're gonna summarize everything that you all need to know, probably before the end of the week. We'll get that to you. Okay?
And we're gonna get to that matrix.
And you can have the matrix too.
all right, okay.
Very good.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
appreciate
Matt.
it, good work.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, second reading of ordinance approving proposed amendments to the city charter to be placed on the 2024 general election ballot.
All right, buckle up, it's a long one, Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, consisting of a final report by the city's Charter Review Commission proposing amendments to the City of Ocoee's charter for the ballot at the next general city election on March 19, 2024, or as otherwise scheduled pertaining to: 1, Section C-8, powers of the city, to state that the city's powers shall be construed liberally in favor of the city to effect their intended purposes, and that the city's enumerated powers shall include the authority to exchange property. 2, Section C-11, eligibility, residency requirements, and proof, to require candidates for mayor to reside in the city for at least 1 year before qualifying as a candidate, and to require candidates for city commissioner to reside in the district they seek to represent for at least 1 year before qualifying as a candidate, requiring candidates to provide such proof of residency as may be prescribed by ordinance, providing that each candidate shall consent to a background check to verify that the candidate's qualifications to hold office, and providing that no candidate shall be barred from running for office without notice, a hearing, and clear and convincing evidence that the candidate is not qualified to hold office. 3, Section C-16, salaries, expenses, to provide that the salaries of the mayor, mayor pro tem, and commissioner shall be commensurate with the part-time nature of the duties of their office. 4, Section C-17, successors, to provide for the successors to the office of mayor or commissioner to be elected at the next regular or general city election if held within 12 months of the vacancy. 5, Section C-18, independent audit, to authorize the city commission to designate an accountant or accounting firm in accordance with the procedures set forth in Florida statutes, Section 218.391, annually or for a period not to exceed 5 years. 6, Section C-21, appointment, qualifications, compensation, to authorize the city commission to reasonably extend the requirement for the city manager to become a resident of the city of Ocoee within 1 year of beginning employment by unanimous vote. 7, Section C-28, city clerk, to clarify that the city clerk's salary is subject to the city commission's budget approval. 8, Section C-45, election dates, to define regular, special, and general city elections, and to provide for the swearing-in of a newly elected mayor or city commissioner immediately before the next regularly scheduled city commission meeting after the canvassing board declares the election results. 9, Section C-49, conduct of elections, to authorize the city commission to set the dates of elections and the dates of qualifying periods for candidates by resolution or ordinance. 10, Section C-50, certification of results, canvass of returns, notification of successful candidates, to appoint the city clerk to the City of Ocoee's canvassing board together with 2 other citizens and 2 citizen alternates appointed by the city commission. 11, providing a form of ballot for each proposed amendment. 12, directing the city clerk to file the revised charter as approved by the voters with the Florida Department of State. 13, providing for severability and a savings clause. And 14, providing for conflicts and an effective date.
Okey dokey.
Good job.
All right, I'm gonna open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience have any comments on the,
I hope not.
proposed amendments to the city's charter? No? So once again, I want to thank you. You did a great job, the ones that are here. Thank you very much. So any comments from anybody on the dais?
They did a great job. Did you know you did all that? Did you?
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Kennedy for item 18 of the ordinance. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hart. Any more comments? No more comments? Let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. Y'all did a great job. Thank you very much.